Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Carolyn, and this channel is all about true crime, mystery, and anything abnormal. I highly recommend subscribing because this channel is definitely a vibe. I just want to say a quick thank you to all my returning subscribers. Thank you so much. You guys are absolutely amazing. And if this is your first time here, then welcome. So we'll get right into today's story. There are a lot of very bizarre crimes that have happened in Target parking lots. And today's story is one of the craziest that I have found. It is the story of the abduction of Sherri Dally. Sherri Dally grew up in Ventura, California. She had a wonderful family that she was very close to, and she had a really amazing childhood. When Sherri was in high school, she started dating the most popular guy in school. He went by the name Hawaiian Mike. And the reason he was called Hawaiian Mike was because he wore Hawaiian shirts. But her and Mike started dating in high school. And that is also where she gets the last name Dally, because his name is Mike Dally as well. So as you can imagine, they end up getting married. At first, when Sherri started dating Mike, her parents were a little bit concerned because Sherri was very introverted. She was a very sweet, kind, loving girl, and Mike was the most popular kid in school. So at first, they were a little bit nervous of exactly how this relationship would go. But that all changed when they met Mike. As soon as they met Mike, he became part of the family. Her parents loved Mike. They were very happy Sherri was in a relationship with him, and it seemed like everything was going really well for the couple. For Sherri's 18th birthday, Mike had 17 roses delivered to her at home. And then when he showed up later that evening to take her out for her birthday, he gave her the 18th rose, which, I mean, that's pretty adorable. Especially in high school, this guy, he knew what he was doing. Sherri and Mike were very serious, and they planned to spend the rest of their lives together. So when they both graduated high school, they decided to move in together. Both Sherri and Mike got jobs at a grocery store. They both worked there, but this was not Sherri's long-term goal. Her long-term goal was to save up money so that she could open a daycare at home for children. Sherri adored children. She was so good with kids, and any parent would be happy to have Sherri watching their child. Not only did she want to open a daycare to take care of children, she wanted to have children of her own. So Mike and Sherri ended up getting married when Sherri was 21 years old. And then by the time she was 24, she had had their first child. They ended up having 2 sons together. Then on May 6th, 1996, Sherri vanished. So Sherri had a really large van that she could fit a lot of children into. So what she would do is she would drop her own children off at school. And then when school was done, she would pick up her own children, but she would also pick up a lot of children that she took care of. Once school was done for the day, Mike started getting calls from a lot of very concerned parents. Sherri had never shown up to pick up any of the children, even her own. She just never showed up. So while Mike is getting all of these calls from other parents, he also gets a call from the school that Sherri had not picked up their sons either. So Mike heads to the school to pick up his sons, and he's very concerned. And all of these parents are very concerned because this is really not something that Sherri would do. She was very responsible, and everyone just knew there's no way that she would not show up to pick up the kids without calling someone. So everyone starts calling hospitals because they think, Well, if she didn't show up to pick up the kids, maybe she had a car accident or somehow she had some type of emergency where she's ended up in the hospital. So people are just calling all of the hospitals that they can, but no hospitals had record of Sherri Dally being admitted or even seen at the hospitals. Mike then contacts Sherri's parents. They lived about 90 miles away, but he called them to see, have you heard from Sherri? And to let them know that Sherri was missing. And then the police were called. So the police come out to the house. Obviously, they're interviewing Mike, trying to find out any information they can from Mike, but they also start canvassing the neighbors. Police are thinking maybe one of the neighbors saw something suspicious or had some type of information. And they start talking to one neighbor. And the neighbor said to them, I haven't seen her today, but it's Monday and Sherri goes to Target every Monday. She has a very strict schedule that she follows. And Monday morning, she gets up, she drops her kids off at school, and she goes to Target to buy whatever it is she needs that week. So police head to Target and they find Sherri's van. When they go to the van is unlocked. Her keys are in the van and her purse is in the van and it's undisturbed. There's no signs of a struggle or anything to indicate that something had gone wrong. It's simply Sherri was just not there. The police tell Sherri's family that they found her van abandoned in the parking lot at Target. This causes a lot of concern for her family because just a few weeks earlier, there had been a man at Target who had been following Sherri, and Sherri was very, very afraid. This was an incident she had told a lot of people about because she was so uncomfortable and it made her really afraid. So the police decide to get the CCTV footage from inside Target. And from the footage, they can see Sherri walking up and down the aisles, picking up the things she needs. But they don't notice anyone following her. They don't notice anyone come up to her. She just went in, picked up the things she went to the cash and left the store. And no one had followed her walking around the store and no one had followed her outside of the store. But unfortunately, the parking lot didn't have CCTV footage. There was one detective who had overheard the detectives who were on Sherri's case discussing Sherri. And when he heard the name Sherri Dally, that detective went up to the police and they said, did you say Sherri Dally? Her husband is Mike Dally? And they told him yes. And he had actually gone to high school with both of them. And so he got really invested in the case and he really wanted to help solve it. Then another detective told them that her sister had actually called her and told her that she had witnessed a blonde woman get arrested in the Target parking lot by another blonde woman. And she said they weren't wearing a police uniform and it was an unmarked car, but she did witness the police officer put handcuffs on a blonde woman and put her in her car. And it's not uncommon. Detectives don't drive around in police cars in police uniforms. They wear plain clothing and they drive unmarked cars. So that in itself was not suspicious. But the friend of hers from high school, he found this very, very strange. He said she is not the type of person I would ever suspect would be involved in anything criminal. And I can't imagine why she would get arrested. So police start looking into all of the divisions of the police that could have arrested her. Because if she was arrested, there would be a record of it. So they searched through Ventura police, then they searched through the California police, and then they even searched through FBI. Any jurisdiction that would have had the right to arrest Sherri in that area, there's absolutely no record of an arrest. So at this point, police start thinking, this wasn't an arrest. This sounds a lot more like an abduction. So when a spouse goes missing, obviously the first person they look at is their spouse. So right away, they interview Mike, but Mike has an airtight alibi. He was working at the grocery store where he worked, and there was a whole bunch of employees that confirmed that, yes, Mike was here. He was here the whole time. And police actually also get the CCTV footage from inside the grocery store, so they can see for themselves that Mike was at work at the time all of this was happening. So they know that he's not the person who did this. That alone doesn't satisfy the police, because they're still thinking maybe Mike was involved, but he just wasn't the person who actually arrested her. They really have no idea. So they're just keeping all of their options open. So they bring Mike in and they're asking him, you are her spouse. We are going to be looking into every piece of your life. Is there anything that we're going to find that is not going to look good for you? And Mike says, well, I have a girlfriend. So Mike had been having an affair on Sherri. Then things get a little weird, because they ask Mike, okay, well, what's your girlfriend's name? And he says, Diana. And they say, okay, but what's her last name? And he says, I don't know. And the police are a little confused, and they say, okay, what's her address? And he says, I don't know. And the police are like, so you're having an affair with a woman, you don't know her last name, you don't know her address. Things are looking a little suspicious, Mikey boy. But then they ask him, well, do you have her phone number? And he says yes, and he provides them with her phone number. So the police look up the phone number, and this is back in the day before cell phones were popular. So it's a home phone that they're looking up, and they very quickly see it belongs to a woman named Diane Howe, and they have her address based on her phone number. So police then go to Diana's home because they want to ask her questions. And they arrive at her home, and there are a few cars outside, and they go up to the door and knock on the door. And the police can tell that someone's home. They can hear people inside, but nobody is answering the door. So the police officer thinks, well, I'm just going to call the phone. So they call the phone, and Diana answers. And the police are saying to her, yeah, hi, it's the police. We're outside ringing your doorbell, knocking on your door. Can you let us in? So she goes and opens the door. So when the door opens, Diane is standing there in black lingerie, and behind her is Mike Dally. What are you doing, Mike? And this is really, really strange to police, because his wife has only been missing a couple of days, and he's at his mistress' house having sex, and he has 2 young sons. Like, also there's huge search parties going on. Like, the last place you think you would be if your spouse is missing is at the person's house that you're having an affair with. But that was Mike's priority. So the police decide they're just going to take both of them into the police station, because they know something isn't right. They don't know exactly what is going on, but something isn't right about the situation. So they bring both Mike and Diana down to the police station. Police are also calling Sherri's family and friends, because the police want to know, did Sherri know that Mike was having an affair? Or was this something secret that she did not know about? Police find out really quickly Sherri sure as hell knew about the affair. There had actually been several verbal altercations between Sherri and Diana because Mike was not only having an affair with Diane, he was bringing his children to Diane's house to spend time as a family, but she's not the mother, she's the mistress. And the friends and family tell the police that Sherri was furious. She was furious about the affair, but she was even more furious that her children were being involved in this affair. And when there was these verbal altercations between Sherri and Diana, they both hated each other. And Diana hated Sherri. And I'm not sure why she hated Sherri, because she was the one out of place. She was the one having the affair. She was the one screwing around someone else's family. Like, step off, bitch. This ain't your place. Through further questioning of family and friends, they find out that there was some really weird things going on with Sherri and Mike's marriage. Sherri was basically Mike's servant. So Mike worked at a grocery store and he started work extremely early in the morning. But Sherri would set her alarm for 2 a.m. to get out of bed to warm up Mike's shower. So when Mike woke up, he could go into the shower and it would already be warm. What? Like, it wasn't as if she was already awake and she just turned on the shower because she knows, oh, he's getting up soon, I'll just turn on the shower and then it'll be warm when he goes. No, she would specifically wake up in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning just so Princess Mike could walk right into the shower and it would be warm. And it doesn't take long to warm up a shower. You literally turn the shower on, brush your teeth. By the time you're done brushing your teeth, the shower's warm. But Princess Mike could not handle that. He needed Sherri to warm that shower water every single day. And this is just one example of the absolutely bizarre nonsense that went on between the two of them. Mike treated Sherri horribly. Sherri had had 2 children, and obviously after she had children, her body had changed. And she would spend a lot of time making sure that she was in really good shape, that she always looked nice. She had hair and makeup always done. Like, she really, really tried to make herself into what she thought Mike wanted. And Mike would say absolutely horrible things to her. He would insult everything about her. He would insult her body, just absolutely anything he could. He was constantly tearing her down. And, oh, God, he's just And then one of the family members tells the police how Sherri found out about the affair. So all of a sudden, this was a while before Sherri went missing, Mike starts telling Sherri about this coworker, Alex, supposedly a male, who's going through a divorce. He's going through a really hard time. He really needs a friend right now. And Mike starts spending a lot of time with Alex, and he sometimes spends the night at his house. And so back in the day, if people were having affairs and they wanted to call the person, they had to call the home phone. There's no cell phones. So you have to call the actual person's home to speak with them. And Sherri would get these calls, and the call would be like, "Hello, is Mike there? This is Alex." And it was Diana trying to pretend to be a man But Sherri wasn't falling for any of it. She was a very bright woman, and yeah, so they tried that. And then Mike just decided he wasn't going to hide the affair. He was going to flaunt it. Police found out from a neighbor that last Christmas, so the Christmas prior to Sherri going missing, Sherri had showed up at a neighbor's house on Christmas Day crying, asking if she could spend the day with them and their family. And of course the neighbor's like, yes, come in, spend the day with us. What's going on? Where's Mike? Where are the kids? And Sherri told the neighbor Mike had taken her 2 sons to spend Christmas with Diana, the mistress. So Sherri spends Christmas all alone so Mike can take their kids to the woman who he's having an affair with. I would have been calling divorce lawyers Christmas Day. I know they wouldn't have been in the office, but I would have been leaving messages because that would have been it for me. But Sherri still really tried to want to make her family work. Police asked Diana, what were you doing the day that Sherri went missing? And she said it was her day off, she was alone, and she had gone on a really long bike ride. So police have all this information and things look really suspicious with Mike and Diana. But the police are kind of thinking about it, okay? So the sister who was the sister of the detective who had witnessed Sherri get kidnapped said that it was a blonde police officer that had arrested her. And Diana has dark brown hair. And police are also thinking, if Diana went up to Sherri in a parking lot to try to arrest her, Sherri would have recognized her. Like, they had met several times. So they couldn't figure out how Sherri would not have known that it was Diana who was posing as the police officer. Even if she got a blonde wig, the police are still like, wouldn't she have recognized her though? Then police get a call from a co-worker of Diana's. So Diana works at the grocery store, the same grocery store that Mike works at. It was actually the grocery store that Sherri had worked out many years ago. Sherri obviously now did daycare at home, but Diana works in the same grocery store as Mike. And they get a call from one of Diana's co-workers. And the co-worker tells the police the day after Sherri went missing, Diana showed up to work and she has all kinds of scratches and cuts all over her forehead. She also told the co-worker that she practiced witchcraft and that she was going to do a human sacrifice for someone's birthday because that would be the ultimate gift. Oh, okay. This woman's wild. When police find this out, they have Sherri at the police station and she has tons and tons of bangs. She has really thick, long bangs just covering all, like you can barely see her eyes. It's just covering her whole forehead. So police say to her, can you lift your bangs so that we can see your face? And when she does, her entire forehead is covered in really deep scratch wounds. So the police are like, so what you got going on there? How did that happen? And this woman tells them, well, I was on a bike ride and I fell off my bike and that's how I got all the scratches on my forehead. And the police say, okay, can we see your hands? Can we see your elbows? Can we see your arms? Because normally if you're driving a bike and you fall off a bike, and if it's a bad fall, you could definitely scrape, you know, your face, but you'd have other injuries. Like if you're going to fall off a bike and hurt yourself, most likely most of the injuries are going to be to your hands, maybe to your arms, your elbows, possibly your knees. Like, nobody falls off a bike and like falls straight on their head, but she had no other injuries. So the police are saying like, so you fell off a bike and landed on your head, but no other part of your body got injured. And she's like, yeah, that's what happened. She's sticking with the story, no matter how ridiculous it is. She's just like, yep, that's what happened. Police are like, yeah, that's very suspicious. But they didn't have anything at this time to hold Sherri, so they had to release her. So while police are doing this investigation, there is a huge search party going on looking for Sherri. There's police, there's search and rescue, and tons of people from the community came out to search for Sherri. She was a very loved woman, and people just wanted to do everything they possibly could if they could be of any help to find her. The only person who wasn't concerned about finding her was her husband, Mike. Because did Mike go and search for Sherri? No, never. He never once was any part of any of the search parties. He never looked anywhere. And you know, and sometimes when I hear about one of the spouses not going out in the search party, I'm thinking, well, maybe they're home with the kids and trying to comfort their kids while the spouse is missing. So to me, that could possibly be a reason you're not out searching, because, you know, they had very young children. Maybe your focus is really trying to comfort your children. But he wasn't comforting his children. He was at his mistress's house having sex. So he wasn't looking for her. He was busy sleeping with Diana. And then the police, they want to find the car. So the sister of the detective had told police that the car that the supposed police officer was driving was a small teal car. And they can't find anyone in Sherri's life who has a small teal car. So then they start thinking, well, maybe it was a rented car. So they start searching car rental places, and they call one and they say, yes, we rented a small teal car the day that Sherri went missing. And guess who it was rented by? Diane Howe. And so they go to the car rental place because obviously they want to impound the car to search it. And when they show up, people at the car rental place say, the car's rented out actually right now. We cleaned it up and then rented it out again. And police are like, what do you mean you cleaned it out? And they said, well, the car came back and it was a mess. The rear view mirror was completely ripped off of the car, and there were stains all over the back seat. Like, it looked as though there had been some type of struggle that happened in the car. So when the police get to search the car, all they do is lift up the floor mats in the back seat, and there's a huge blood stain. So the police impound the car so that they can search it better. And the blood stain that was under the mats was in the back seat. And they can also see on the back seat that there's staining. So they decide to cut into the cushion of the seat, and it is completely saturated in blood. So once they see this, they go and they arrest Diana because she was the person who had rented the car. And Diana is just denying everything. But when they arrest Diana, they search her purse. While they are searching her purse, they find a family photo that was professionally taken by a photographer in a studio. So this isn't like, you know, a picture you take at home just of you and the family. They had gone to a photographer in a studio to have professional photos taken of the family. The only problem is it's not Diane's family, but Diane's in the picture. In the picture is Diana, Mike, and Sherri and Mike's 2 children. Like, that's a whole level of psycho that I don't even understand. They also find a piece of paper that has Sherri's name on it and her bank account number. And at this point, they have Diana in an interrogation room with a police officer, and Mike just ends up showing up at the police station. And Diana is in the interrogation room, but she can hear Mike in the police station. So she starts saying to detectives, is that Mike? Is that Mike? Is Mike here? What's Mike doing? Da, 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 da. Like, she's so obsessed with Mike. So the police are like, let's just see what happens. Let's do a little experiment. So the police decide that they are going to leave the interrogation room, and they say to Diana, do you want to speak with Mike? We could bring him in here. You could, you know, if you guys want to talk, we can just bring him right in. She says, yeah, I really want to talk to Mike. So they leave the room and they say to Mike, oh, well, Diana would like to speak with you. So Mike goes in the interrogation room. Now, any logical person knows if you're in a police interrogation room, you're being recorded. Like, you know you're being recorded. Like, of course you're being recorded. So Mike and Diana start whispering to each other. But this is a police interrogation room. It doesn't matter that they're whispering. The police can hear every single thing that they are saying. And Diana starts saying to Mike, I'm going to go to jail because of this, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life in jail, and how could you have gotten me involved in this, and says some pretty incriminating things. But they think they're whispering, so they think the police can't hear. The police are sitting outside the room listening to everything they say. So then Mike decides, like, he's going to pull one over on the police. So very loudly, he starts talking, and he's like, well, all you have to do is tell the truth. You didn't do anything wrong. Just be completely honest with them. They can't arrest you because you never did anything wrong. And then the two of them end up having this kind of fake conversation that they want the police to overhear. But they don't know that the police already overheard the whispering. So this whole fake conversation that they're speaking really loudly about, nobody's being fooled anywhere. I mean, except them. They're being fooled. So then the police decide, they go in and they kick Mike out because they're just like, okay, these people are just idiots. So they kick Mike out of the room, and then they say to Diana, well, explain to us why you have Sherri's name written down on a piece of paper with her bank account number. Like, why do you have this? And she says to the police, well, Sherri abandoned her children, so we have to get money out of her account to pay for things that they need. And I mean, I think the police's jaw probably hit the table. And one of them says, Sherri, she didn't abandon her children. She's missing. Like, she didn't abandon her children. Someone kidnapped her. And this woman, like, I don't know. She's so stupid. So police are still, I mean, they have some evidence, but they don't feel like they have enough to arrest, charge, and take her to trial. Like, they need more evidence. So the police decide, well, you know, we're going to take her, we're going to walk her out to her car. So a lot of times the press can be very detrimental a lot of times in true crime cases, but the press can also be a hero in true crime cases because this story was everywhere. It was all over the news. It was in every newspaper, on every radio station. Anywhere you looked, all anybody was talking about was Sherri being missing. There was pictures of her put everywhere. So the police are very conscious and they make sure, because the press is all just outside the police station. So the police make sure that the press gets video of them escorting Diana into the police station and escorting Diana out of the police station. So then all of a sudden the press jumps on this, and all of a sudden now Diana's face is all over the newspapers and people are talking about her and she's on TV as she's a potential suspect. And the police very much wanted this to happen because they're like, maybe there's people out there who know something and maybe somehow this is going to get us some lead or some tip. And boy, oh boy, does this work. They get more than they probably could have ever dreamed of. So police almost immediately after Diana's face is in the news start getting phone calls. They get a call from a wig shop opener, and she tells the police that Diana had been in her store a few weeks ago and she had bought a blonde wig. And she also paid with a personal check. So they know 100% that it was Diana who purchased the wig. Police then get another phone call from another store and they tell the police, Diana was in our store and she bought handcuffs and a fake police badge and she paid with a personal check. So again, they have very clear evidence that it was in fact Diana who made the purchase. Then the police get another phone call. This phone call is from another store, and the people at this store, they tell police, Diana was in here a few weeks ago and she purchased an axe. And again, she paid with a personal check, so they can absolutely confirm that it was her who made the purchase. This woman is not bright. Not at all. And thank God. Police very much want to find Sherri's body. At this point, they don't believe that Sherri is alive. They don't believe she was kidnapped and taken somewhere and she's being held. They very much believe at this point that she was kidnapped and killed probably very shortly afterwards. And 4 weeks after Sherri went missing, her remains are found. So at this point, they rearrest Diana, and this time she's not going home. So this is what police believe happened that day, because they had gotten a tip from a friend of Diana who had seen Diana on the day that Sherri went missing. And she said that Diana looked very strange. She had caked makeup all over her face, and the person said it was very, very thick. And she's like, I know her. And when I saw her, I didn't even recognize her because she had so much makeup on her face. So what police believe happened was she caked all this makeup on her face, put on a blonde wig. They go up to Sherri, who's just loading up the things she bought at Target into her car, and arrest her. And Sherri is just, you know, a mom who, if she's going to be arrested, she's probably just like, okay, I'll just do what the police want. Like, it's, you know, she was probably quite easy to convince her, you know, you're being put in handcuffs, you're being taken to the police station. And Sherri was probably, I would imagine, in shock, like, why am I being arrested? But what they believe happened was that once Diana had got Sherri in the car, then Sherri realized that this was Diana. This was not a police officer. She figured out this is Diana who has just kidnapped her. She's not been arrested. And when Sherri was put in the car, she was put in the car behind the driver's seat. So when Diana had all these scratches all over her forehead, what they think happened is that Sherri is sitting in the car behind Diana. So as soon as she figures that it's Diana and not a police officer, she would be trying to attack her from behind. So what they imagine is the reason she had all these scratches on her forehead was because Sherri was probably reaching over the seat to just do anything to try to save her life. But police believe that Sherri was killed very soon after, and Diana had done it. So police now have arrested Diana. She's not going anywhere, but they want Mike too. They very, very much believe Mike was 100% involved in this situation. So they want him as well. Police start then getting phone calls from drug dealers and sex workers saying that Mike lives a double life. Mike is a drug addict who hires and uses sex workers on a regular basis. And one sex worker comes forward and says that Mike had hired her a couple days after Sherri had gone missing, and he had sort of driven her out of town, and they had done drugs and had sex and did whatever out in this kind of like area. And then 4 weeks later, when it's on the news that they discovered Sherri's body, the sex worker realizes that was the exact place that Mike had taken her and they had had sex. So she obviously at the time didn't realize that Sherri's body was in the same location where they were. But once they find her body, she's like, that's exactly where we were. And it was a couple days after Sherri had gone missing. So with this, they arrest Mike. Diana's trial was first, and she was found guilty, and she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mike's trial was second, and Diana actually ended up testifying against Mike in the trial. During the trial, another woman contacted the police and said that she had very briefly dated Mike not that long ago. And while her and Mike were dating, Mike asked her if she would kill his wife. And he not only wanted Sherri to be killed, he wanted her to be tortured. He told this woman, I want her to feel pain. I want her to be in a lot of pain for a period of time before she's killed. Now, this woman obviously ended it with Mike because, I mean, okay, he's psychotic, but she didn't believe that Mike was serious. She thought when Mike was saying this to her, she thought it was some kind of sick joke. Like, she never even considered that he was actually asking her to kill his wife, but turns out he definitely was. So Mike was found guilty, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So that's the end of today's story, and I really hope that Sherri's two sons are doing okay. I can't imagine they've probably had very difficult lives learning all of this as they grew up, but hopefully they have good supportive people around them, and hopefully they're thriving and doing amazing in life. And thank you so much for joining me for another video. If you'd like to help support the channel, please feel free to click on another video and watch one. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who is commenting, sharing. The channel's growing. It means so much to me. So I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day, and I will see you in the next one.